Hello, Dr. Johnson. This is Jacob.
Hello, Dr. Johnson. It's Sharana.
Yes, and this will be our video submission for the second reflection in culturally responsive teaching. We'll just kind of jump into it. For the first question, what brought me the most intellectual satisfaction when I was reading? Um, it resonated with me right away because it's a problem that my school it's kind of has culturally built into the academic culture where a lot of teachers, and I mean myself included, especially my first year when I was just getting into teaching, it's like it's the old saying, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And a lot of
Yeah.
teachers have that mindset with students where it's like, I can provide the resources, I can give lectures, I can teach and give them skills. But if they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it, the students. And chapter 7 was just all about attacking that mindset and really getting the kids to buy in the academic mindset, helping them develop growth mindsets, and encouraging them in the correct ways. And that for me was the most satisfying because I want to encourage kids to have those growth mindsets because I can see a lot of them by the time they're seniors, they're really stuck in that fixed mindset.
Yeah.
And even if I only have them for a semester, I really want to jump in and get them to, embrace challenges, take academic risks, have a curiosity for learning. So learning about those strategies and skills for helping them build that for me was definitely the most intellectually satisfying.
And I would have to say that I do agree with what you said, Jacob, as far as that being something, because once the kids buy in, that makes your whole in learning environment,
Hmm.
it makes it work well, because you're building those bonds and those relationships with the kids as well as allowing them to buy in, and
Hmm.
for example, even just setting those rules, for them and allowing them to be a part of the rule setting process. I think that that's a big buy-in as well. So, that does go back to that, and that's extremely important. One of the things that was most intellectually satisfaction for me was when I read the article about the education and the voting and the voice.
Hmm.
Basically, it's they have created this whole program for scholars that are the ages that we teach, to be mindful of why voting is important. And they
Hmm.
started at the very young age so that they can know what to kind of look forward to when it's time for them to go and vote. And I thought that was awesome because I didn't have that. For me, it was I had to go read up on it, then I would have to go Google it, and on top of trying to understand the process. So it, of course, could be tedious. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So it definitely takes longer to do that and vote if you don't know about it.
Yeah. That's huge for me too, because I teach government and a lot of the kids are just unaware of the true power they could have if they were able to
Yeah.
collectively go out and vote and advocate for themselves. I always try to take a day. I invite people in, like actual like voter registration people to come in, and we just
Yeah.
take a day, and it's like let's get registered, let's talk about the voting process, let's talk about how you can start impacting the community in the way you want. So it's
Yeah,
huge.
and
Yeah.
and that's so important because even with you doing that, you're enlightening and letting people know about things that they possibly didn't know. So that's with this program, and I love the fact that they on the website they have lesson plans for all
Hmm.
grade levels. Starting from I think it was kindergarten all the way up
Oh
until
wow. Yeah.
high school, so they can implement this very young, so they know what to look for. And I think that it's important because the program is not only for children all over the world, it's fostering that learning and not just
Hmm.
about voting, but you can put that into the culture of your classroom as well,
Hmm. That's
you
huge.
know?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know, yeah. Speaking about the classroom too, just for me, I think about my actual classroom, like the school itself. Our
Yeah.
building, and this ends up leading to something that was somewhat frustrating for me in the reading. Just to think about, my building is 100 years old. We had our 100-year anniversary this year.
Oh, wow.
It's
That's
been
crazy.
marked, yeah, it's been marked like a historical land site by like the like Dallas Historical Society or Texas Historical Society, something like
That's
that.
pretty dope.
Um, but we recently had renovations done, and now it just feels like a prison. And chapter 9 of the reading kind of went over how if you're going to create these culturally responsive learning environments, you need to
Hmm.
have well designed classroom spaces with
Hmm.
proper aesthetic symbols and like like cultural motivation. And the wall, it's literally white brick walls with gray floors, And the only
Yeah.
color in the room are like the orange chairs, like the desks are gray and everything. And I'm like, and it's so hard to decorate too, because on the brick wall, you basically need to hot glue things to the wall because tape falls off after like 4
So
6 inches.
nothing really sticks up there for you to
Yeah,
have like posters or signs or anything, right?
exactly. And so kids come in and I'm reading all about how, they need to have this like culturally responsive environment so they feel motivated. They have that academic mindset, the growth mindset starts to develop. And it's just the building itself that we're in, partly due to its age and partly due to the decision to make it look this way in the renovations. It's like, man, these kids are coming in every day and they're just seeing, white and gray and then the smart board or the
Man,
Promethean board or whatever. And I try to
man.
find ways to liven it up, but it's really challenging because you can only get so many things to stay on the wall for more than a day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that once again goes back to, that culturally responsive teaching piece, because it's important to make the environment conducive to keep them engaged. You know what I mean? Like, so when you say you think about that, and I guess that resonates with me, something that kind of troubles me when I think about, the environment in the classroom is that right now we currently share a gym with high school. So high school has one end of the gym, meanwhile, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is down at the other end. So we have sometimes over 90 kids on one half of the gym.
Wow. Yeah. Like, is
You
there
know
even
what I
room to
mean?
kind of move, Yeah.
Right. Sometimes never. So we're thankful, like you said, for what we do have. Like you're thankful for the renovations, but it makes it extremely difficult to continue to incorporate different strategies in teaching when we don't have enough space, when even if we did, now it's the materials are limited, now in this area, because not only are we middle school on one end, we're sharing the gym with high school as well. You know what I mean? So I totally understand, because that's something that kind of, frustrated me as well. And like another thing that kind of like troubled me or whatever in the reading was like, the fact that, one of the articles, it talked about things that it was like the history which we see ourselves was the title of one of the articles. And basically, it really troubled me that there's a lot of things in history that we literally don't know about based on, where you go to school, you know what I
Right.
mean? Meaning the state or the school district, and in this article, they realized that they weren't taught about certain history in schools while growing up because, they missed the event. So once they finally learned about them, it was like, wow, like, why was I never taught that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's, that was just like, that was curious to me to know, like, why don't they teach us that? You know what I mean? And like, you only learn about certain things in certain areas, or like, so that was curious and frustrating at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, it was just really
Exactly.
frustrating.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. As a, social studies teacher, by the time they get to 12th grade, I think they know some things. And then I'm like, wait a minute, you haven't heard of like the Little Rock Nine?
Right.
Or like, and I'm like, okay, we're taking 5 minutes. Like I'm explaining this.
No,
So it
for
sets up the
real.
context for that. Yeah. And just, yeah,
I mean, and
anyway.
then putting another hat on, because that's like, now you're the educator. So now you have the time to like teach them about it briefly, to kind of give them a synopsis on what it is rather than just assuming that they already know. Like, and believe it or not, Jacob, a lot of scholars that are in 6th grade do not know how to jump rope.
Right. Yeah.
You
It's
know
just
what I
like, do
mean?
they have
Because
access to the material to even jump rope in the first
yes,
place? So yeah.
yes. And I feel like also because of technology, you know what I mean? It's taking away kids wanting to go outside. They want to do everything with technology. So I just automatically assumed when I first started teaching that they knew how to jump rope, but they don't. Like, I had
That
to
was
teach
something,
them.
yeah. That's actually something that I want to apply. Like, because my first year of teaching, I made a lot of assumptions about what a
Yeah.
kid already knows. And this year, my
Yeah.
approach was more, I'm starting fresh from a topic. They have never heard of this before. And for the kids that have heard of it, I'll rely on them if I'm going like cold calling students for like
Right.
topics and things. And similarly, like what I want to apply from this reading specifically, it was all about like the power of active processing. It was in the textbook. Basically, you need to get your students to be actively engaged in the learning process. Because my first year, I struggled a lot with just relying on slides, like slides, because I just needed to get all my materials built up, teach them content, and then they did a practice worksheet. But now
Right.
I've switched it up a lot to be more project and like learning process based, where like I'll
Yeah.
teach for like 10 minutes. Then I say, we're going to try an activity and we're going to try to simulate something, or we're going to try
Yeah.
and like vote, or we're going to try and make a law. And that actively is getting them engaged, and they can start to remember the more important things. When it comes to the ACP, when they're taking their final test, they can remember, oh, we tried passing a law in class. We had to do this, then this, then this, as
Yeah.
opposed to me just putting that on a slide and being like, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. They got to do it themselves, and it really helps with the input, the elaboration, and the application of like
Yeah.
processing that information and being able to internalize it.
And I agree.
I'm going to keep doing that hopefully in the classroom. I want to keep applying that.
I agree. Similar in physical education, we do very much that. We allow the scholars to, first, we try to not assume. So we get knowledge about whatever sport or activity we're doing to see what they already know about that. You see what I mean? And then we just kind of build off of that. So we're like, okay, well, if you know this about this, this is what it is, then we're going to put this together and see how it actually works, you know? And I think that you're right. That whole process, that application process is a really big piece of it. You know what I mean? Because once you get the kids, like, for example, we do KWL charts, you know, that's something that, you know, I learned back when I was in school. So we utilize that for them because it does, and we keep it posted to show them like, okay, well, you guys knew this. This is what you want to know. So did we do it at the end of the lesson? You know what I mean? And this is what you learned. So it just works. To me, it's
That
like what you said. Yeah. It's that application piece, you know? And I think this kind of leads back to, you know, when we're considering and thinking about our students. When I think about my students and how they can benefit from a lot of these articles